So this is going to be one of the more difficult videos I've had to make. And in the theme of Anzac Day, we may as well start with the theme of the poppy, theme of the tall poppy syndrome that seems to be somewhat of a epidemic among people supposedly defending our Constitution, supposedly standing with Anzac, standing in lineage of Anzac. So, whether you like it or not, Stephen, House of Spires, has for the past 15 or more years taken upon himself to, in a court of law, address some of the most critical problems that we have as a country. He's done this at a personal expense that none of us can relate to. He's had his family compromised, he's been imprisoned, he's been tortured, he's been threatened with forced medical procedure. Just the amount of time given up to fight these cases, as well as the money required to get there. On top of that, he has prepared and published white papers and made countless videos and shared this information freely because he has been defending for all of us. So it doesn't really matter what your personal reaction to him might be, to his demeanor. These are the facts that are indisputable. And I'm not going to spend the time that it would require now to go through that entire history, but suffice to say, he's been almost everywhere in this country and seen how we all live, seen almost every place. So he knows Australia, and he knows what we don't, and can argue in court what we can't. So there's this tall poppy syndrome, this need to cut somebody down because they are out there, out in front, on the front line, that is just very difficult to understand, to comprehend. When he was named, Stephen was named by you all who attended ceremony in 2020, who made an oath of allegiance. You named him as the King of the United Kingdom of Australia, and then this was put on record, Supreme Court of New South Wales, in July 2021, from the case of U.R. Kiskinen, who also suffered 12 months of imprisonment for doing nothing wrong. Like Steve did nothing wrong. He was subjected to forced medical procedure. So he stood up. He stood up and defended. And then, as a result, war crimes are documented in what is essentially a closed case that at law makes the state war criminals. Violations of Rule 90 and Rule 92, not to mention a plethora of articles from Hague and Geneva Convention. So I'm just going to go through some facts that apparently aren't comprehended. So we have a king defined by ceremony and then on Supreme Court record officially titled. He is linked directly to the Stone of Remembrance in the Shrine of Remembrance in the King's Domain in Melbourne. There is only one stone. The only other option, and your default option, is King Charles, who's to be coronated to Stone of Destiny. A stone that, thanks to Sacrifice of Anzac, is foreign to our realm that they anchored for us. So sooner or later, everyone has to realize that you either stand with Stephen and the king's men, or by default, you're a citizen, or you step outside of line of authority altogether, making you an enemy of both crowns. So this is about fact, it's not about popularity. That's that's politics being applied to the realm of defense. A king and his men defend for liberties. They don't tell you how to live your life. They don't put policy in place. So it's not a situation like with a president of a republic where they're in charge of policy and defense, or a prime minister in a principality where they're in charge of policy and you can vote them in or out every few years. It's about successors according to law. And Stephen's made oath to James Francis before him, who was successor at law. Now, Stephen is successor according to law. This is what your Constitution Act 1900 UK PGA defines for you very clearly, and the oath of allegiance is the oath in said Constitution. So if you do not wish to make oath, then you do not wish to defend the Constitution. So it's what I see is like Trump derangement syndrome, at times about 1,000. And I do understand that Steve is a provocative character, which has been incredibly humbling to face a mirror. But if you've been watching my videos, then you clearly be able to see that the result of actually facing what Steve's pointed out to me has been whilst being a difficult experience, the fruits from it outweigh it a millionfold. It's a joy to serve. It's a joy to hone a craft and to share that with others who are similarly trying to perfect themselves, rather than simply facing that mirror, which is what Steve holds up, and then saying, oh, he's a meanie, I can't you know, he can't be king because he says mean things. But think about a war, and we are at war. Think about a good old-fashioned shooting war. Does a general say to you, "Oh, excuse me, chaps, when you're ready, when you finish your tea, if you wouldn't mind, we'd like to send a few of you out there onto the front lines. But when you're ready." Of course not. It's not. It's not like that at all, and it shouldn't be like that. Meaning that not only at law is he king, but he's also the one at personal expense that made it possible for there to be a man holding that crown, man holding that line of authority, for us to have a way home, for us to have a line of authority to stand in the first place. But he's also the perfect man for the job. So it's just a case. You got to get over your ego because there's too much at stake. Reality is we all need each other. Reality is that it's about defending together. We don't have to like each other. We just have to know that we have each other's backs. And that's, what all this tall poppy stuff is just, it's undermining. You're undermining your own kingdom. You're presenting as that sovereign citizen that they've been showing you, warning you about. If there is no other line of authority available to you other than Australian citizenship, which is, as we've demonstrated, slavery. It's debt slavery and worse. So yeah, why undermine yourself? Why undermine your neighbours? I know it's not easy to make that step, but there really isn't another choice. So yeah, everyone reacts when Steve uses the word retarded, but in all sincerity, I don't know what else to call it. It's insanity, perhaps. You're cutting off your only lifeline, and in so doing, you're undermining it for everyone else around you. So yeah, we need to be considering who we are talking to. So the people that might be slagging out Steve or slagging out his men, they likely don't see the full picture. They likely don't see much of the picture, and in all likelihood they are probably agents of the government, of police or military in one way, shape or form, seeking to divide and conquer. It's what they do over and over again, and by falling for it, you're undermining, and you're undermining for others too. You're undermining your own standing, placing yourself in danger. So yeah, I'm not sure why this thought hasn't occurred to some people, that perhaps part of Steve's demeanor, part of his harshness, is to protect you from undermining your very self. Because you've seen what they do to sovereign citizens. You see how they like the whole system to be set up to drag you in as an individual. You complete an individual tax return. You face a court entirely set up against you as an individual. The only way is to stand together, to truly stand in the lineage of your Anzac, and to defend our Constitution and defend what was ours, what's been left to us before they came here and started to administer. So at the end of the day, it's about facts, not about feelings. I'm sure I can speak for everyone when I say I would prefer we weren't in this scenario. But the fact of the matter is that we are, is that if we don't stand to defend alongside one another, then we get World Economic Forum, Charles, more St. Edward's Crown, more slavery, citizenship. So, if that's not convincing enough, we also have the Compassing Law, New South Wales Crimes Act 1900. It's a 25-year jail term to compass a sovereign, to attempt to depose, to invent, to publish said inventions, imaginings. King versus Casement 1917. If you don't have an alternative standing and there at law cannot be one, there's only one stone. So it's a failed endeavour. It's pointless. You're undermining yourself, your own estate that we all have an equal share in. It's God's estate. Stephen holds a line of authority to that estate. We all have an equal share in. And when we do resemble Anzac, I anticipate that we won't be hearing the word retard. Imagine that when we can ally, when we can set up our own private supply chains, nurses, commanders, scouts, that we won't even need to hear scarcely from the king. So I think there's this misconception out there that a king is one who rules with an iron fist, but I already laid out that it's not the same thing as a president. It's the king is defense. The king's men serve to defend, to keep intact chain of command for everyone's defense. So we need to become again what we were before the occupier moved in to administer. So this is about everyday life in your town, in your city, looking after your neighbour. Starving the nanny state, only give what you absolutely need to. Wherever possible, transact and hold gold and silver. Do the bare minimum if you work in a government job. We show them that we're peaceful and we can self-determine. They have no choice but to go. So the door remains wide open for everyone because we all need each other. So make your oath, get over your ego, and come home. Or be prepared to be shipped off to the Ukraine or some other godforsaken hellhole to serve elbow the Australian government, your Australian citizenship, your St. Edward's Crown, your King Charles coronated to a foreign stone. Foreign meaning not gods, not the stone of the gods of your fathers.